you're watching us on the stream, now you can see our guest finally arrived, Mr. Raju Mandhyan.
Yes.
Okay, and he brought with him a book, The Heart of Story.
Yes.
Wow, which can connect, engage, and influence your world creatively.
How to be the writer, director, star, editor, producer, and
Executive CEO coach.
of your own life.
Janitor.
And the janitor of your own story, yeah?
Yes!
By the way, Raju and I were together at the leadership events yesterday, and it was just fantastic, yeah. It was so great to have him around, amongst all these great minds.
Yeah. So you see, Raju, you already made the preliminary introduction of our topic, which is change your stories, change your life.
Wow.
So we were just, Bjorn and I were just saying, you are the star of your show, and you are the writer of your book. Or the writer
Actually,
of
he
your
wrote
life.
many books. What books did you write, Raju? By the way, welcome. I'm glad you're okay. Glad you made it.
I'm just trying to catch up.
You're running, huh?
Because parking and running up was a big hazard. So, okay, I'm getting my breath back.
Okay.
So, I wrote, to answer your question, I've written 5 books.
Wow, that's amazing.
The titles are The Heart of Public Speaking, The Heart of Humor, The Heart of Story, and The Heart of Close. So 4 from the Heart series, and one of them called Pit Bulls and Entrepreneurs.
Well, I like
5.
people.
I have that. I'll give it to you later. It's in the car.
So yeah, change stories, change your life. Change your stories, change your life.
Oh, this book kind of matches it.
Yes, and I was just before, if you would have been listening, he was saying that life doesn't happen.
Were you able to listen while you were driving?
Oh no. I was busy driving crazily.
So
Please don't do that again. Drive normal. Because we want you to be safe.
I do that often.
By the way, to our listeners out there, please also drive safely. Yeah.
Always.
Yes.
yes.
I know sometimes in traffic the bully comes out of us, but it's not healthy. The outcome may not always be good.
Maybe not the bully in my case, but the Spider-Man.
The Spider-Man.
Yeah, the maniac.
So this change your stories, change your lives. I think you'll be a guest also, or you guessed it already. Was it January 12th?
No. For the last 2 years, I had been doing a lot of talks and workshops on storytelling.
That's right.
Not last 2 years. I think maybe the last 6 years. It started with a group called the Association of Appreciative Inquiry, and I think one of the first events was in 2010. And then from 2014, I don't know how this happened, but some of my friends, Dean Pax and his friend Mr. Sanchez, Eugenio, they asked me to do storytelling, and I haven't stopped since then. And September of last year in India, there was a group that said, don't talk to us about storytelling, give us something much more profound, something much more transformational. So I said, okay, change that. Make the title, Change Your Stories, Change Your Lives.
Nice.
And they loved it, and we actually had one event in September which was a rip-roaring success.
Nice.
And then we had another one. We are going to have another one end of February 27th. We are going to call it Change Your Stories, Change Your Lives 2. 2 as in like number 2.
Part 2.
Part 2. Not part 2. 2 as in like the second run.
Yeah, and
Because part 2 means it's connected to the first one. It's similar but different.
And I like what it says here with your change stories, change your life. Sometimes you tell the stories, and sometimes your stories tell you.
Exactly.
Change.
Exactly. Sometimes you are the author, and sometimes you are the loony bin inside your own story.
That's what happens when we don't write our own story.
When the stories take control of us.
Yeah, exactly.
When our
we
stories,
become a victim to the story.
yeah, when they take control of us and they are disempowering stories. They're fine if they are empowering stories that you create and they run you, then they're fine. But the moment they drag you down, it's time to change those stories.
Oh,
Great.
wow.
Yeah, that's true. That's how you can tell, right? If you need to change your story. If it lowers your energy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe I think for the audience that is watching and listening this, it'll be great to first start off with like, what exactly is a story? What forms of stories there are? How to structure a story, and then maybe
I like that. Yeah.
take them deeper. You know, so like go from grade 1 up. It's up to you. I mean, I'm just the guest.
No, you tell us. You're the expert.
Well, if I were in your place, I would say, Raju, what are stories exactly?
Okay.
So like you define them, then I would go further like describe them a bit more, and how do they impact us? I mean, how do they impact life in general? How do they impact individuals, etc., etc. And then you have to progress. I mean, you're the master interviewers, but I think people.
Oh, spoken like a true master yourself. You know, you've been on a TV show for how many years?
Well, that's in the past now. It's all in the past now. Money changes everything.
Money changes everything.
This is all.
So you want to write the story of your life, which has may give a great impact to people who would listen and who would read about it. So then it should be first, you have to be aware of that life story you want to tell. It should be it should compose of you had a call, suddenly you got wake up something. Like sometimes how do you call this? Pitfalls in life, like, or maybe pain in life, heartache, for example.
Right.
So that could be the call to say, now my husband left, now my lover left. So that's the heartache, right? So that's the awakening call. I said,
But maybe we need to look at
now
the
I'm
opportunity
alone.
instead.
Now I have no more lover, or I have no more.
Maybe I can bring in 10 new ones.
No, I think
At least
no,
one.
I think
Then
that,
you get your breakthrough in life lessons, right? And that's what people want to learn.
I think the assumption is that something has to happen to you to write a story. No, I think every single day, every humdrum incident in your life, like a walk down the street, or even your attitude towards success, towards fulfillment, towards money, towards relationships, towards personal happiness. I think there are stories about that, and there are a multitude of stories that are engaging you yourself. So it's not just one. I mean, those are like peak stories, fine. But there are
there's
multiple.
happy, sad,
No,
successful
that's a peak. Okay,
stories.
I climbed up the Himalayas. Okay, that's a peak story, right? Or I got married. That's another peak story. But beyond that, there are many incidents that occur every single day that form us, or in unfortunate cases, deform us. So I think let's look at how we can form ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Shape.
Transform.
Design.
Yes.
Or
Recreate,
even
transform.
or
Right,
recreate.
Build something new, right?
Right. Every
That's right.
single day, tomorrow morning or next second, recreate yourself. So anyway, you throw the questions. I'm talking too much.
Yes. What
No,
inspired
that's your
you?
job here today. Talk too much.
What inspired you to come into that topic of change?
Yeah, so
changing?
going back again to the Association of Appreciative Inquiry, the method or the process or the technology, or as I call it, the way of life, the way of life, attitude towards buhay, it has to be appreciative, inquisitive. Appreciative, inquisitive. So that forms that, number one, you appreciate what is, what is, or find something to appreciate, one part. Appreciate what is, or go dig deeper and find what there is to appreciate in anyone, anything. And then post that, you become a little more inquisitive. That means discover a bit more, explore a bit more, probe a bit more. And then when you probe, your audience or your client or your people, or in this case, client, they tell you stories. They tell you, oh, this is what happened to me, and that's how I feel about this, or these are my thoughts about such and such matter. So when they start telling you, they are actually telling you stories. Small stories, big stories, dramatic stories, emotional stories, stories of success, stories of failure, they're telling you. And in those stories, when they tell into that person, then you also have to look at the person who is beholding that person. Yeah. So here I'll pause. I'll take this over. Yesterday, him and I, we were at a conference, and at the end of a conference, a young woman stood up and she said, I am from such and such school, and there is a senior person in my school who does bad things and is extremely bad. How do I help him see the good? Or how do I make him do good things? How do I empower him to become good? And well, lots of gurus and thought leaders responded to her. I was sitting there and I was thinking, lady, that's your story.
What is his story?
Yeah, that's your story. Have you been into his shoes? Have you lived in his shoes? Yeah. Is he totally bad? Yeah. Is he probably he's a great father? Yeah.
Maybe
probably,
just expressing
maybe he's a
frustration, right?
great pastor, or maybe that's your perspective, no? So first you need to get into his shoes.
That's right.
Yeah. If you keep telling that story to yourself that the gentleman is bad, that gentleman is bad, that gentleman is bad, you're going to see nothing else but that. You are going to hear nothing else but that. Your community, your network is going to see nothing else but that. Yeah. You go and talk to your wife and say, that man is bad, and she says, I think I agree with you. Nobody says no, right? You get down on a stranger and say, by the way, that radio host, oh man, she was nasty. And then what happens? They say, yeah, I saw her. She kicked the door, or she opened the door she banged the door so hard.
I think whatever we're focused on, we're going to find evidence.
You multiply it. So going back to that lady, so I was thinking, maybe I should have a chat with her. I didn't get a chance to chat with her. But all through the night I'm thinking, what a sorry state that mindset is in. No? It needs to flip. It needs to switch around to look at this other human being from a very healthy, appreciative, forgiving perspective.
You know what I heard, what I've read, and some of these good writers, they said, when you complain against a person, or when something happens to you that is likely not so nice, it's your doing.
You're doing what?
It's
You
your own
created.
doing.
Oh, it's
You're
your own doing.
creative.
It's your own creation. Yes,
As
yes.
Yehuda was saying, in life, it just doesn't happen. You have created it. You might even have thrown the vibration.
And that's sometimes difficult to see, because when there comes a point in life when we realize that everything, almost entirely everything, is our own creation of what happens in our life, right? And that may be very hard to take and very hard to swallow, right? That saying that we have actually a part in creating that, and maybe if I had done something different in the time that led up to certain events, this event may have turned out differently.
So what do you think, Raju?
I think there are two angles to that. No, the statement for the thought process that you just discussed. The quote or the title for that subject matter is called "To Think Is to Create." To think is to create. No,
Isn't there a book like that?
No, that's not a book. It's a group here called PSI, and one of their first principles or supposition is that to think is to create. No? To a large extent, that is right. To think is to create. The extent where it is not right is where you're walking and a planet falls on your head. But you didn't think that far that maybe a rock would fall on your head, or there would be a bomb explosion and you just blew away. No?
But you also got to remember that all of us think and create. So it's
that's universal.
Many creating.
Yeah,
right?
that's universal. Yeah, that's correct. That's to a larger sense. That's big picture. But small picture, you personally didn't make that happen. You were part of the whole humanity that made that happen. Maybe no. Let's not go there. That's too heavy for this one.
That's what I was trying to say.
So say that you didn't make that happen. But here's the deal. Let's say a friend of mine whose daughter became a mother very early in her life. No? And I happened to have this conversation with this friend. And he said, Raju, I'm so upset. I told my daughter.
I would feel blessed, because I would
told my
experience a
daughter-
grandchild,
No, would you be blessed? I mean, would you consider yourself blessed if she was premature and before marriage? Yeah,
Well, before
amazing.
marriage is okay, but not premature, right? That's a hard,
Anyway.
potentially harmful to mother and child.
Anyway, he was not happy with it,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So then he goes, Raju,
A lot of people are not.
all my life I've been telling her, don't do this, don't do this, never get into that situation. And I said, were you in part implying her when you tell someone don't do this, and that's been part of your history, it was part of his personal trauma, no? And he said, were you not kind of influencing her to do that? And then he looked at me for a long time, took a long pause, and he said, you know what, had I not discussed the whole thing, had I let her live her life in a normal way, all this thing probably wouldn't have happened, and had it happened, I wouldn't have been so regretful about it. That means I didn't create this, my own regret, I created it, I kind of built it up, no?
So we kind of create our own monsters in life, no?
One. And you know it, sometimes when you're driving a car or driving a bicycle and you see a pole in the distance or a tree, and you say, I don't want to hit that, I don't want to hit that, I don't want to hit that. And bang, you're hanging on the tree a few minutes later, right? So that's a very
Extreme.
it's a very simplistic example of that. But I think in the long run, most of us create a majority of our life. So you as a radio host, did you bring yourself here? Did you work your life towards it? Someday did you wish that maybe I'd become a radio host? Or did somebody put a gun on your head and say, become a radio host? Someday you wished for it. Yeah, someday you wish to be profound on the radio. Or to help people, or
That's
maybe
right.
share lives. Maybe 20 years ago you said, one day I shall share my thoughts
I
to a larger mass.
I didn't think of it, but it's actually true. When I was younger, I said, maybe I want to be on the radio someday.
I must tell you that I have imagined myself to be living on a mountain, long silver white hair, slim and
The silver
tall.
white hair is getting there.
It's getting there, it's getting there. And that's my
Not
dream.
long yet.
It's long. Well, it won't probably grow long. I'll probably go bald. But it'll be a similar version of that.
Doesn't look like
And speaking very softly, just speaking enough, and speaking things that matter.
Yeah.
And every word I say, every action I take, helping someone else or another community become a better human being or a better community.
That'll be Sri Raju.
Yeah, sorry?
Sri Raju.
No. I don't want any of those mung things. Yeah, but I just want to be there. I want to be a cool dude. It could be in the mountains of Colorado. It could be in the mountains of Himalaya. It could be on the Chocolate Hills. Who knows? No? But it'll be like a little bit higher, above sea level.
Yeah, which of the nice, beautiful countries could be living in that mountain?
Yeah.
Switzerland, in
Somewhere with fresh air and a temperate
Lugano.
climate.
I hear Chocolate Hills is not bad.
Aspen. In Aspen.
If you don't feel profound, you eat some chocolate.
You probably won't be allowed to build anything.
No, it's just hanging. You put a hammock and you hang.
Oh, okay.
Right?
That's a new definition of hanging, no?
Yeah, put a hammock and hang.
So that change your stories, change your life, it can be really a great impact towards you and to others, right?
True.
When you involve a person into your story, and you have given the words or the things that he should speak,
Great.
it could make an impact how he has delivered it, how he's going to do it. So, it's really, the life is really a system, So be careful with the people you really involve your stories with, right? That's why sometimes you have to choose who you want to enter into your life,
Yeah,
right?
who are the actors?
Yeah, correct, exactly. I mean, you can pick up the characters, but first watch the story. Watch the core of the story.
So what the story you want out of your life?
What is the truth in the story, first thing, and what do you propose to do with the story? And then, of course, you can put in a lot of characters, you can change characters, you can change their roles, etc.
I have another question for you, Raju.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes a story that we hold on to from the past, right, it can really have an impact on us in the present.
Right.
I think it's probably easier to change the story of the future than the story of the past. Is there any way in your book that you explain how to change the stories of the past?
Well, good question. How do you change the stories of the past? Or how do you change the stories, basically, right?
Yeah.
Because story by itself means that it happened.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Good question. So can I just like delve on it for a
However
minute?
you want. Yeah.
To answer your question, that portion is not in my book.
Okay.
It is in my book. What is there is how to change your organizational stories, not your
So
individual
it's more
story.
an organization development.
Yeah, it's also how to tell a story or how to be a great leader as a storyteller. That's all in the book, no?
Okay.
How do you change a story? Good. May I take some time on this?
Yeah.
Number one, you know you are telling stories. Yeah, you don't start with that acceptance. You cannot move ahead. So let's go back to that woman yesterday who complained that her senior was all bad. No. Now
I don't think she said it. He was just doing bad things.
I had another encounter with her.
Oh, really?
So quick one, like about 30 seconds, and man, that story like ruled her. No, it was like. So now she has to first accept that kwento lang yan. Aking kwento yun.
Yeah.
She has to first accept that because unless she sees it,
This is my story.
this is the story that I hold true.
That's why in court, they only listen to your story, then we'll listen to the other story.
They will listen to multiple aspects. Let's go to how to change it. First, she has to see it. That this story that I'm telling about someone else has begun to rule my life. Yeah? And maybe there is a seed of a wrong perception in it.
Correct. Perception
My
is
own
very
perception. Yeah? And that perception is something you see from one angle.
Yes.
And that perception, I am holding it to be the ultimate truth.
So to change the story, I need to change the perception.
Wait a minute. That's only the first step.
Okay.
First step is recognizing that you're telling a story.
Okay.
The second step is to recognize it as your own perception,
Okay.
which you think is written on stone.
Too many times I think we're confused about perception being reality. Right?
Correct.
It's not the same.
So here we go. Now here, when you recognize it, this is what is ruining my life. This is what is spoiling my growth. This is what is messing up my organization, my team, my school. No? Now, great. Now once you recognize that, then you first listen to yourself talk about it. Because you're telling it to people. Not only are you telling it to people, you're telling it to yourself. When you lie down at night, yung mama, yung presidente ng company ko, sungit. Right? You're telling yourself. So you're being auto-telling. That means you're building and recreating yourself, and you're telling your friends. You're telling Bjorn, you're telling Raju, you're telling Marilyn, and they're listening to you and they're going, yes. Because nobody goes no to your truth, right? So now you recognize that that's the story I'm telling myself. Now, this empowers me, it destructs my systems, it hurts people around me in the very long run. Now when you see that story, you hear the story, you deconstruct the story. That means you open it up. This is the opening of my story. This is the body of my story. This is the challenge in my story. This is the character's dialogue in my story. This is the character's description in my story that I have been building. It's a fake story. It's a story from my perspective.
But often very real for people. Right?
It is totally real for you. It is totally real for you. Now you deconstruct it, then you say, oh, that's where the character, I made an assumption on the character.
Correct.
I made an assumption on the character's intentions. Yeah? Or whatever the outcomes were, I did not measure them objectively. Yeah? Money exchange, relationship exchange, I did not measure them objectively. Then you go back, now you have deconstructed it, you have found fault. In the corporate world, they would call that root cause analysis. I don't want to call it that. Yeah? That's for the business. But then you found it out, now you remove that part, and now you say, I want to make this whole story empowering. This human being, who I consider to be bad, there are positive aspects to him, to my relationship with him, and if there is none, what is the impact of that negative relationship doing to me? Oh, well, it's making me stronger. It's making me wiser. It's making me more humble. It changes you, right? It changes you. If you have challenges in front of you, they impact you. Now you measure it from that perspective. Now you take the same story of your relationship with someone which you think is destructive, but it is having a positive impact on you. Start now to rewrite another story, saying, well, there was this gentleman, he was so challenging that because of him, I learned to skill up on this. I learned to build my competencies on this. My whole attitude towards life changed, and I thank this gentleman. Yeah, who I thought was bad until yesterday, but hey, he's been good to me. Does that make sense?
Correct. See,
Yeah.
there you see the maturity of people when they tell things, about people, about places, right?
Yeah,
Now I can see your
people, places, etc.
So, and it's very important to learn the way you're telling me
Yeah.
how to speak about people, how to talk about things, how to talk about situations. Because there, as you said, now you better be careful because the person you're telling you might be lowering yourselves because your perception might be immature.
Yeah.
And your assumptions might be wrong because this person might happen to know that situation.
Yeah, but
that other
here's the
person.
deal. You have to only pass judgment on your own perceptions. Other perceptions you have to explore.
That's why you say,
Yeah,
this is my
that's true,
opinion.
that's true.
It's
Yeah.
of my opinion and my own personal little perception
Yeah, and if I
that this
may,
person made me feel this way. Alright?
exactly. And if I may,
Oh, that's
even
interesting.
in my own life, there's so many bad things happen, but what I came to find out later in life, that all of these bad things that happened in my life turned out to improve my life.
Yeah.
At some point, right?
Thus,
It does.
there is no precise quote unquote bad thing, quote unquote good thing, right?
Yeah, it's
Quote,
just how
unquote.
we perceive it at the moment.
Right.
But
There's
it
very
takes,
little
takes
that's
so much wisdom and maturity.
It's very simple. I can give you a nice little fable from India, and that will help you always look at life from different perspectives. You
Nice.
heard of the 6 blind men?
no.
I thought the mice.
Oh, well, is that the one about the elephant? Is that
6
the one
blind
about the
men.
elephant?
Okay.
So one time 6 blind men walk up and they say, hey, we are people from Hindustan and we gotta go and check out the elephant. We hear he's a unique kind of an animal. So these 6 blind men, they walk up to an elephant and one of them grabs the trunk. He touches the elephant and he grabs the trunk and he goes, hey, this elephant is like a huge snake. Yeah, it's like a snake. It's a giant snake. It moves, it wriggles, you know. So the elephant is a snake. Perspective 1. No, there's another one who holds the leg of the elephant and he says, "Are you kidding me? This elephant is like the trunk of a coconut tree. See how big it is and so stable it is. The elephant is in reality a coconut tree, and I believe it." And the third one is leaning against the side of the elephant, and he said, "Wow, parang sandal sa pader pala ito." No, the elephant is a wall, no, and I can lean on it. It's not a trunk of a tree. It's not a snake. It's
What are
a
you
wall.
talking about?
The last one is hanging by the tail, and he says, "Are you kidding me, man? I'm gonna climb up on a mountain using this rope." The tail of the elephant. The elephant is not really a snake, a trunk, or a wall, but he's a rope. So I'm gonna climb up, no? And then there's another one who's holding the ear from the other side, and he goes, you guys are nuts. You guys are nuts. You don't see an elephant. The elephant's like a big Chinese fan. I'm gonna make pie to myself. I'm gonna fan myself in this Indian summer." And then the 6th one is grabbing the trunk. He said, "Are you nuts? This elephant is like a weapon. It can kill us. Look at how pointed and hard it is."
You mean the tusk?
The tusk, tusk, not the trunk. That's
Yes.
correct. The tooth of the elephant.
Yeah.
So 6 perspectives to one animal.
Yes.
Different.
And think of it, in life, there are so many complex things, and you have more than 6 perspectives on everything. An accident that happens on the street, you're the one who bangs, somebody gets banged, 2 different stories.
Yes. Two
Yeah?
different
Or
perspectives.
people watching, or the cop watching, or somebody who gets splashed with the water on the street, and that's the 3rd story. Multiple stories.
Yeah, and one little blink of the one who has witnessed that, it changes the story.
Right. And you ask that story a few days later, you'll say, "Well, that man was 6'8" tall, like Bjorn, and it was in reality Raju, who's only 5'8"
No,
tall."
I'm only 5'20".
So yeah, that's changing perspectives, and then our job as the authors of our story,
Yes.
our own storytelling, is to be able to change perspectives, our own, quickly, and to adapt and to get closer as much as possible to the objective reality. You will never get to the objective reality, yeah? But your job is to
Is there
progress.
really such a thing as objective reality?
No, it can't be.
Can't
It
be.
can't
Progress
be.
only.
You just have to become, which is uniform, which is benign, and not harmful to you or to others. So that's why you keep on going, no? So you have to keep changing your story. Time out. Thank
Okay,
you.
that was a great one. All right, so Philippines, don't go away. We'll be coming back for more changing
Wow.
stories, changing your life.
So sorry for being late.
Now be careful how you make your stories from now on. Don't go away, Philippines.